weather. So welcome everybody. If you can't stay for the whole thing, don't worry. But we do love your questions as well. So please don't hesitate to put a question into the chat. And Madison, how about you kick things off and get started? And I'll run the slides, okay?
Okay, thanks, Tanya. Well, hi, everybody. If I have not had the chance to meet you, my name is Madison Zulowitz, and I am the event coordinator here at Doug. So I help run our local and regional meetup program and get to talk to people like you all day. So really love my job. Doug is a free community for users, implementers, and resellers of Microsoft business applications. Our main goal is to support Microsoft Dynamics 365, GP, and Power Platform community. We want to be able to help you excel and grow in your personal and professional career. And one of the ways that we like to do that is through our local meetup program like this one. We have a few rules of engagement. We essentially ask that all of these meetups are held to be solely educational, so please no sales content. We want everybody to be able to come and join these meetups, learn as much as they can, network with each other, but not come for a sales pitch. We also ask that you engage with your speakers. So as Tanya mentioned, make sure to ask lots of questions. That's how you get the most out of it. It makes it the most enjoyable for our speakers. So please, please, please ask questions. No question is a dumb question. And Doug, so Doug is short for Dynamics User Group. We have multiple different forums. We have an online open discussion forum where you can ask questions and the Doug community will help answer. We have webinars, local meetups like this one. We have regional conferences, large conference, and we also have a YouTube channel where, as we were discussing at the beginning of this meeting, all of our virtual local meetups like this one get posted to our YouTube channel. So if you are able to make one of these meetups or just interested in what people around the world are talking about in their local meetups, please visit our YouTube channel. It's free, lots of great educational content on there.
And grab that QR code. It'll give you everything you need to know.
Yep, and I'll send something in the chat afterwards as well with some information. So we have our 2025 DynamicsCon regionals coming up. These are a little bit larger in scope than our local meetups. They're usually full day to 2-day events. They always include breakfast, lunch. We typically have a social hour. So it's a really great way to network within your local community. And they're based on region. So we're going to Canada in June, which is our first one coming up. We're going to Denver in August, Ohio in August, Texas in September, and back to Tampa in January. So really looking forward to these events. They are a really great way to gain lots of education. We typically have about 3 breakout rooms that all discuss different Microsoft products. So again, really great way to just gain some free educational content.
And if I could add to that, Madison, too, is there's always a call for speakers at these events. So it's a really great opportunity for you to share the knowledge in your brain, but also to expand your network. If you're working on your Microsoft MVP, these are great opportunities for you to get front and center on stage time. So I highly recommend the one for Canada is open, I think, till May 2nd or 3rd for the call for speakers or presentations, for instance. So if you're in these areas, you're going to attend it, consider, presenting something, or at least getting on the roster to say, hey, I might be interested. If you don't have a topic in mind, don't worry, just talk to the organizers and they'll help you organize something, because everybody has something of a nugget that you can share with somebody else. So highly recommend it. If it's something that you're interested in doing, just click on these different community sessions and just look for the call for speakers and see if that's something you might want to do. So
yeah, that's a great point. And if you're ever interested in speaking and you kind of don't know where to start, please feel free to message me. I'd be more than happy to help you. We also have all of these links to each of the Eventbrite pages, which has that sessionized link on our website. So if you ever need help finding it, just let me know.
Okay.
We have our international regionals coming up. So we are super excited about this. We have never gone international before. Big year for Doug. We are going to Ghana, Kenya, and we're going to Copenhagen. So very busy year this year. We're super excited to be expanding our horizons. We actually have a super big presence in Africa and Europe. So glad to be there in person this year. We have our largest conference of the year, our 2025 DynamicsCon. So this is a 3-day conference. It is a huge event. We have tons and tons of educational sessions. I think we have like almost 300 educational sessions. It is lots of educational, lots of networking events, really great way to get involved in the community. We have some great speakers, and I think a lot of people on this call have either gone before or are going again this year. And I think that many people can speak to how important it is and how helpful it is to help grow your career. So we have a discount code for all of our Meetup members. You can use that code Meetup15 to get 15% off at checkout. And I will send the link in the chat. And that's all for me. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Madison. And I will be at DynamicsCon this year, and my partner in crime that presents these sessions, Nancy Calder, she's actually going to be on stage presenting at DynamicsCon. So would love to connect with you if anybody here is going to be in Chicago in a couple of weeks. I have to get my flight still, but I'd love to connect with you in Chicago as well, and highly recommend this kind of event for sure. So. All right. Thank you, Madison. That's awesome. So I guess we'll switch gears now, and we're going to talk about preparing for a data analysis kind of engagement project. This could be an internal thing, something that you're thinking about doing for your client. So again, we have a variety of attendees that typically come to this meetup, and you might be a B2B kind of provider, or you are a user of Dynamics and you're trying to figure out how to deploy something in your environment. And inevitably, it'll come around to you need to do something with your data. So we have a data specialist here, Nadia Rojas. She's also from SS&C. So she's going to take us through planning for a data analysis kind of project and preparation on that. So Nadia, welcome. Thank you so much for participating today. We really appreciate it. And I'll hand things over to you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And wanted to also thank the Dot Meetup for inviting me today in this session. So very excited to share everything with the team. So as Tanya mentioned, I am part of SS&C Technologies. I started roughly a little bit over 12 years ago. And I basically started as a customer service, pretty much dedicating my time into CRM 2011. And I have been involved with every single version after that. A few years ago, when Microsoft launched the Power Platform, I actually saw the different products that they actually had under the umbrella. And the one that really caught my eye was Power BI. Power BI, I have been trying to look for a tool where I can actually ingest lots of data to make sense of things that I wanted to improve within my troubleshooting skills, and pretty much the reason why I'm here today to talk about it. So in our agenda, I'm going to go through about my experience with data analysis and why it's important, then pretty much what is my process for data discovery. And then I'll follow up with a few best practices and other tools that I use in my day-to-day. And then I'll try to wrap things up with how do we use Power BI today in SS&C Technologies. So why data analysis is important? If you are in this journey, you probably are trying to solve for a problem, identify a trend, or inform business decisions. You want to make sure that you actually have the tool that can ingest lots amount of data. In my experience, what I actually wanted was pretty much how to troubleshoot my day-to-day better. I wanted to understand why workflows were misbehaving. I wanted to understand why something break for the sake of breaking. Things do not break just out of the blue, so something must have changed, and I needed to be able to know what this was so I could actually fix it. Also, as a team manager and as a manager of the service team, I wanted to make sure I understood every single ticket that was coming through. I wanted to know that my team had the number of tickets actually within their queues, and I wanted to also see what were the bottlenecks, what are the things that we were doing really, really well, and what were the areas of opportunity. So Power BI was actually basically helped me to actually go through all these things and basically make sense of what I was looking at. A few years ago, I honestly can't remember what I was doing, but I did came up on this code, and I kind of love it. It really resonated with me because I was basically trying to validate what were my findings with data. So without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So having data to back it up is very important.
That's a good one.
Awesome. So I know that many of you in the call are already familiar with Power BI and perhaps data flows as well, but I just wanted to go through pretty much these tools just to make sure everyone is on the same page. So I'll start with Power BI. Power BI, basically what it does best is creates beautiful reports and dashboards. It's really amazing doing this. And if you wanted to use Power BI, you may or may not need a license. And I'll try to go through more in details in the next slides about that. But Power BI enables you to connect to multiple data sources or a specific data source. I have not found a limitation in how to connect to the data yet. And you are able to actually transform your data. You are able to actually, the same technology that you use in Excel, if you have used Power Query before, is basically the same one that you would use to make sure the data that you are ingesting is actually good for analysis. And again, it does a really good job at highlighting lots of trends and insights through beautiful visualizations. And then we have data flows. I'm starting to work with this pretty recently. I really like it. So data flows is Microsoft categorizes it as an ETL tool. So it basically extracts loads and transforms. So in a nutshell, it moves data from one side to the other and it puts it back into the Dataverse. And also because you are taking all this data, you are actually able to transform this data and make sure it's actually perfect for good analysis. There's a few advantages of data flows. You don't need to have a specific license to actually use a data flow. It's actually a feature that was introduced with Power Apps, Microsoft Dynamics, Power BI. So if you have a license to use either of these products, you are actually able to use data flows. It is product agnostic, which pretty much means if I create a data flow in Power Apps, and I did a bunch of analysis, I added it to the Dataverse, and I wanted to report on that, I could pretty much open up Power BI, connect to that same Dataverse without having to do all the transformation and show visualizations. The same way that you will transform data in Power BI using Power Query is the same thing. You will be able to use Power BI as well. And basically the data is actually stored in the cloud. So there's no concept of data flows on premise. Everything is going to be on the cloud.
Nadia, quick question for you. Is there an optimal amount of data that data flows likes to work with, or is it sort of as big as your universe is?
As big as your universe is in terms of licenses. So if it is that you're working with data flows within the your Power Platform license, that's what it will actually allow you to. Now, there are times if the job is too big, maybe data flows is not the best one to use, then maybe you need to look at a proper ETL tool. I shouldn't say proper, but kind of like a higher ETL tool.
Yeah.
But data flows are pretty much meant to be a self-consumed tool. So pretty much no really IT skills really needed, but basically something that will do a pretty good job at moving data.
All right. Thanks, Steph.
Awesome. So pretty much my journey with data discovery is before I start with any new initiative, I need to really understand the data source. I need to know what am I connecting to and what is kind of like the size of my data source. And I also need to pretty much kind of visualize or kind of see how that data will actually come through, because the heavy lifting of every data analysis actually comes in the transformation stage. The data has to be absolutely perfect for me to do proper data analysis. And what I mean by that is that if I have a field coming through as text, it needs to be formatted in text. It needs to be formatted as decimals, whole numbers. Sometimes we have to extract um, maybe a data set from, I should say like a data value from a delimiter. We need to be able to concatenate fields, do calculations and stuff like that. So transformation is going to be the key portion here. And then after we have our data set is completely clean, errors free, exactly how I want it, then from there we will try to see, okay, what is the outcome that we want for this initiative? Do we want to push it back into the Dataverse, or do we want to visualize it? And either of these options will actually tell me if I have to use a data flow or a Power BI. Okay. So things to consider when you are doing the data discovery for me is, again, understanding what I'm connecting to the data source. If you are connecting with Power BI and you don't see the program that you are intending to extract data from, chances are you are still able to do it with a custom API. So maybe that third party that you're trying to connect may have an API that you can use. So something to be explored. Within this slide, you will notice I have a few titles that has like a little price tag. It was my way to actually highlight the items that are directly correlated to the kind of license that you would need. So for example, if you are working with a data set that is 1 gig, Power BI Pro should be good enough. But if it is that you're working with data sets of 100 gigs, then we probably are looking into premium. So just keep in mind to actually know how big those data sets would be. One of the best recommendations for Microsoft, obviously, it's not going to apply in every single situation, is when you are doing the data transformation, it's prefer that the data comes already transformed in how you want it to be for you to be able to do your processes. Obviously, sometimes that's not possible. So that's why they give us Power Query to actually be able to manage the data too. But always the best practice is to get the cleanest data as you possibly can. Target audience, very related to your license as well. So if it is that you are the one that wants to do the analysis and you want to do the exploration of what kind of analytics you can get, you probably don't need to have a Power BI license for this. You can just connect to download Power BI desktop into your computer, laptop, and that's pretty much free. If it is that you did wanted to share these reports with the rest of your colleagues, then you will most likely need a license. And then in terms of a data cycle, just basically wanted to highlight here that there are different ways to actually ingest data. So this basically is how often do you want your data set to be refreshed? We have been working with real-time reports. The technical word for it is streamlined data sets. So basically it refreshes as you push the data. So there's no refresh schedule on this one. And then you have other kind of reports where you can say, okay, I want to refresh it daily, weekly, monthly. Depends on the license, you may be capped by the number of times that you can actually refresh it. So I believe Power BI Pro is like 8 times a day. And then the premium will probably be about 48 times a day. However, I've known about workarounds where you can refresh your data set within a Power Automate as well. So something to actually try there.
And Nadia, presumably you can put a condition on that schedule. So if X happens, then proceed with the schedule. Yeah,
definitely. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Can go to the next slide. So a few best practices for me. Once you develop and you have a lot of Power BI reports and dashboards already published, there is an admin report that you can use. You will be able to see what is the interaction within your Power BI workspaces. You do need a certain license. I would say the license, but you need to belong into, I think it's the admin security group within Power BI or Fabric to actually see it. But it will be able to tell you who has been interacting with your reports, how they have been interacting, if you have any sensitivity labels on it. So you will be able to actually get some good insights. If I develop a few Power BI reports and I don't see many traction, maybe it's an opportunity for me to evaluate, are these Power BI reports needed? Or maybe they're not loading properly. Maybe the users that I thought that did not have access don't really have access to it. So it's something to actually keep reviewing. So you only maintain what is actually being used. When I started, every single Power BI report was tagged with my username. So whenever I change my password every 3 months, it was a little bit of a task to actually go through all of them and refresh them with my new credentials. So if you can use a service principal, I don't have to think this anymore, and it just refreshes everything in autopilot. So doesn't take too long to do neither. So definitely I will recommend to actually do this as perhaps phase 2 within your developments. And the last one I have for this slide is share with security groups rather than just the individuals. Is going to be much easier to maintain going forward.
I know from our side of things, we when clients have tied Power BI to users, the user leaves, we get that 911 call, like this stuff doesn't work anymore. And so we have to, help them move over to service principal. So this is a real thing, a real challenge because of staff changes and so on. So I like that tip. That's my favorite tip on this list.
Thank you. So best practices in terms of Power BI. So one of the things I've got to notice, it does a really good job at doing data compression. When I started, I was trying to compare my data set that I had loaded in Power BI versus the Power BI I had saved without no customizations, nothing was done to it, just pretty much load and save. And I kind of noticed there was a really big difference between the both files in terms of size. Then later on, I kind of researched, and there was a technology called VertiPack that actually does the compression. So I wanted to show you an example of what that kind of looks like, and that's going to be in the next slide. So,
Come on. There you go.
Perfect. So this is an example I did so pretty much last week. So I had a CSV file that was 66 megs, and just by saving it in Power BI, the exact file was 28 megs. So again, if you're working with a data set, going back to the whole licenses of, you can do up to, 1 gig or 10 gigs, whatever that license tells you. If you actually have a data set that is pretty much a little bit over, you might actually still be able to work with it because of the compression. So it's something that I will still try if I'm just very close to actually that limit. So,
and that's over in your entitlements you're referring to in the
yes.
Dataverse, right? Okay, perfect.
On the Dataverse and on the license, Power BI gives you a cap, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
So in terms of optimizing, I'm constantly trying to see how I can improve my reports. I definitely always want them to run faster every single time. And usually reports that are smaller run faster. So one of the tips I wanted to actually show here is how to, with a few clicks, you can actually make a big difference. So I'll show it in the next slide. So in this example, this is the Power BI report I had shown the previous one. But in this one, what I actually did is that I just removed one column from my data set, just one. It was a multi-line text field, and my Power BI went from 28 megs to 5 megs. That was over nearly a 50% reduction in my report. Mm-hmm. So I think my point here is when you are connecting, and the same thing will probably apply for data flows, but if you are connecting to a Dataverse table, like accounts or contact, most of the times you will actually get the entire table downloaded, but you are unlikely to actually do an analysis on every single column. Right. So pick the columns that you want to work with, pick the rows that you want to work with. You can always filter, remove columns. They're very easy to add back into your report if you need them. but work with the data that you want to analyze and not everything. It will make a big difference in the size of your report.
Yeah. Is it safe to say, and maybe I'm off target with this, is even if you've optimized your file and then you've designed your Power BI report and you run it on your mega laptop, it might perform differently on someone else's laptop because of their CPU and so on. So there's also a real best practice in there. Just know your audience is going to be using these reports to understand just what their computing power might be and how their experience might be as well. And that's why this optimization makes the most sense, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you always want to be able to test with different audiences just to make
Yeah.
sure that the experience is the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
So another thing, when I started, I had to do calculations. So the easiest way was for me to do a calculated column. It's basically the same way how it works in Excel, where you create a column and you make a reference to another column and you add a formula. These columns do take space into your data set because it is an extra column that you're adding, but you can still use, there's another concept of measures that it's a formula that you will apply on your visual. Your visual will most likely not take all your data set into the visual. It's going to be a section. So that calculation, that measure will only be applied to that specific graph that you actually have. So these will not take any space in your report, but it does take a little bit of performance to actually run it. But I tend to do more measures than calculated columns whenever I can. So just another tip, but it is a balancing act there a little sometimes. In terms of streaming data sets, or what I call here real-time data sets, before I push any new data, I want to make sure I clear what was there. Microsoft gives you a little toggle box in the streaming dataset where you can actually turn on and off to actually clear that cache that actually exists. When you have many of them, is very time consuming to actually do this. So we have developed PowerShell scripts that actually does it for us. So we basically clear all our data sets before we push new data. And it basically takes a second rather than going through this toggle box. Also, I learned when you create a report, you also have the capacity to create dashboards. And at the beginning, my dashboard were exactly as my reports. Then I kind of learned the best way, or maybe something that will kind of need to be reviewed with everybody situation. But for me, I was able to actually add all my reports into one dashboard, or at least what made sense, what I wanted to keep looking at. That way I don't have to open 10 reports. I just have to open one dashboard, and then one dashboard has all the content that I need. So you can customize what you actually want to see in a specific dashboard.
Nice.
Yep. So best practices within data flow, specifically with Power Apps. When you create a data flow, so let's say you connected again to Dataverse, and then you downloaded the accounts and you wanted to do some transformation, and then your contact table, and then from there you want to do some further analysis to inject back into your Dataverse. That the sequence in which you connected the table, so you will see the first one will appear at the top and then the second one following, that order matters in terms of execution. So when the data flow is refreshing, it will go through query 1, query 2, query 3, query 4. So whenever you're designing, you have to think about how you want the steps to be created. So if you're creating new data, you want it to be at the top. If you want to append something to that new data, then the append will probably come at the second. So you will have to kind of play with it, but just know that the query, the order of the query actually matters. Whoever creates the data flow is the owner. Data flows do not have the concept of service principal. So if it is that you are working with a team, maybe consider assigning a user that has a license to actually use the data flow, so then you can share this account. Otherwise, if you don't have this, then all you can do is to actually switch the owner of the data flow. It's very easy to do. And all that you will need to do is to re-enter your credentials in order to see all the transformations. Every other thing like the mappings to go back into the Dataverse, that remains untouched, but you will just have to re-authenticate. Data flows are awesome because they can, once you build a logic, if you want to reuse it, all you need to do is to export it as a template and then import it again into the Dataverse. And then you will need to re-authenticate. And then you will definitely have to remap your fields, but you don't have to redo your logic if you don't have to. And to your previous question, Tanya, with Power Automate, you can leverage Power Automate to actually execute your data flows as well. So if the data flows are just meant to run manually or by a schedule, but if it is that you need to trigger a data flow because an event happened, then leverage with Power Automate to be the one that wakes up and basically refresh the data flow.
Great.
We'll go to the next slide.
Trying. Trying. There we go.
Awesome. So as a summary, how we use Power BI today. Again, we started to analyze all of our service tickets just to find areas of opportunities for us. After that, we actually started to use Power BI to actually see the status of our clients account and our CRM to see pretty much areas of opportunities as well. And we were able to also link them to the tickets that we already had in other reports. And then from there, to help my day-to-day in terms of troubleshooting, we also develop admin reports in CRM where I can pretty much see who is using the CRM, who hasn't logged on in a specific amount of time. What kind of actions are you doing within the audit log? I can actually, we have been able to troubleshoot audit logs like deletions and restores to see what is that one field that is constantly being updated that perhaps is taking too much space in our capacity and what's actually affecting this. And also troubleshooting flows that are not behaving properly. And one of my favorites is that we can actually now monitor all the changes in Dynamics. So if somebody creates a field or publish a solution, I'm able to actually capture all the metadata to see when was this field created. I'm not able to see right now because it's not really available who did it, but at least I know something changed. And with that, I'll be able to troubleshoot faster because I know what has changed now and when did it change. And one of my personal favorites, we're using streaming data sets a lot to actually monitor our production servers. So we're monitoring disk usage, folder sizes, memory usage. So pretty much everything has been what is actually key for us. We're monitoring right now with a combination of PowerShells, injecting information into streaming data sets. And one of the nice features that I did not mention in today's slides, but when you have a dashboard, you can actually you can fire alerts based on something. So for example, we have a tile that is actually, that will be a dashboard tile that is actually monitoring the disk usage. So when the disk usage goes over 80%, it fires an email and we leverage it with Power Automate to actually be able to notify us, hey, have a look at the server. It's a little bit full right now. So these are the things that we have been using. And yeah, I'm happy to hear from, if somebody wanted to share the experience, I'm happy to hear to see how are you using Power BI today.
Oh, thank you, Nadia. This is awesome. I have to say the power of Power BI, either building it separately or just even some of the embedded, experiences inside of Dynamics these days is really just bringing the power of something that could be complicated down into laypersons, like the low code, no code user experience. And one of my favorite features is to be able to embed those contextual dashboards or those reports into a Dynamics page. So say the I know sometimes with clients, they want to see data from other systems, but we don't want to load it into Dynamics because we want to preserve the entitlement. So we just want to show it. So I know that that's a real part that I like a lot, is that just show something and you still get the outcome that the user wants, is the information at their fingertips, but they don't need to search on it into Dynamics. They don't need to put it in a view and things like that. They really just want to go to that client record and see some other aspect of data. And it marries it so nicely. And I like to make sure that clients know it is very possible to embed a Power BI experience that's a contextual experience as well, not just a broad report like the styles that are some of the ones that you're talking about. But I think embedding that into Dynamics is a really nice way to streamline the Dynamics experience for sure. So Jendo, I know you do a ton of Power BI. Do you want to talk about some of the scenarios that you've used? And again, I get the goal of today is to help people prepare for it if you've never done it, or prepare for the next style, because again, Power BI even a year ago has changed to Power BI today. So do you want to share some of your tips and tricks, Jendo?
Well, after Nadia shared her knowledge many years ago, I think you'd be surprised where I am today, Nadia. I surprise myself sometimes. I use it a lot for the things that I personally as an admin can't get to easily inside a CRM. So it's really great for the show me your relationships that don't have certain activities. I think that I think is really good. But where I've been using a lot of it lately is in security role audits. So with the Power BI, to your point earlier, Nadia, you can see if people are logging in or if they're not. But you can also see every user and what security role they have applied to them, and whether it's inherited or not. I just started to play around a little bit with the ability to see every security role and what the depth and the privileges are for each of those. And then I have it now to where I can compare and contrast different security roles to say that this one will allow a user to create an account. This one will allow it to not create. So I've been stacking those on top of each other and playing. It's ugly. It still requires some work, but it is really helpful when you've got 30 security roles and they're assigned randomly, and you're trying to figure out what one of them is supposed to do and who's able to do what when they really shouldn't be. That's one of the things that I've used most recently with it. And then I also do it for data storage, monitor the async table, looking at all the workflows. Are they running? Are they failing? What's failing? What can be cleaned up? That type of thing I do a lot of as well too.
Yeah. So sometimes the planning is more, there's an immediate need. I don't have a big runway to actually do a massive amount of planning for it, but I know that there is a need. So sometimes the fine tuning comes after you've kind of done a mini POC almost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, you got to figure out what you can't see easily, right?
Perfect.
And in my situation, I'm leaving them with clients, so it's all about setting it up so that it's easier for them to digest and understand. So that's the other piece of it.
Perfect. And Nancy, I know you joined the call. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any comments about the analysis approach and using tools like Power BI, data flows?
No, I love the presentation. It was fabulous. So thank you for sharing the best practices with us. And Power BI is a really interesting tool that's an add-on for our for CRM in general, and it's got a unique place now with Fabric, with that also. So maybe we should. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to explore Fabric, Nadia, or how does that tie into your experience with Power BI? Maybe that's another session altogether, but it's a very great topic.
Yeah, that would definitely be another session, but I'm starting to get into that area now. So pretty much it's they're very much related, Power BI and Fabric. It's just as Fabric gives you more power to do the things that you cannot really do and that you feel you need more in Power BI. So for example, for data flows that I was referring to, they also have the Gen 2, and that will be more the Fabric size, and that will give you amazing more analytics, and it's going to give you all the AI stuff, and it's going to give you more power to actually run things. So that's just a small example, but they're very much correlated, and yeah, I think it's worth for a different session for sure.
And I think on that session too, we cannot not talk about Copilot in Power BI. So at some point we'll get there for sure. So awesome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That is really great content. And I know we just scratched the surface, but I think the idea is just sharing knowledge and getting people started if they haven't started on their journey. But it's always good to kind of hear real world use cases too, to understand just how can I apply that to my business. So thank you, Nadia. That was really, really great. Okay, so we have a bit more time today. So what I thought I would do is just, this is probably a little bit of old news, but again, we're going to just do a little bit of a recap or a review of just the Wave 1 2025, specifically for the sales app, and a little bit of the Power Platform. And of course, can't miss Copilot in here. So I have a couple of things I just want to highlight in terms of features and so on. So first of all, if you're new here, and you're new to the Microsoft space, Microsoft does a really nice job of putting together the Wave release planners. So you can go ahead and scan that code. Basically, what the release planner does is it breaks it into a couple different main areas. So you can see on my screen here, we're just looking at the Dynamics 365 release plan. There's a Power Platform release plan. There's a Copilot release plan. And then you can go through, review what's coming, make your own plan. This is the part I love the most, because the releases, as many of you know, have 5 billion things, and they don't all apply to your particular needs or your line of business, or you don't use those parts of the solution. So I sift through, and it takes time, but it's worth the time to sift through the release items and make your own plan. So you are monitoring when Microsoft makes an update to the items that you put on your release plan. So once you log in with your Microsoft account, you can access and create your own release plan. So the minute you favorite something or follow something, it'll become part of your release plan. So you can go away from having to monitor everything and spend time just laser focused on the items that you care about for your own needs. And as you can see, as an example, there are lots of items under the banner of Dynamics 365. So for me, in my world, I spend most time here in the sales app. I do like to see what happens in these other apps, but they do not apply in my work world. So I spend the time, very valuable time, to make my own release plan. So highly recommend that. Okay, so let's dig into a few of the features that kind of surface to the top for me. So one of the things is, again, it's very heavy, this release, on Copilot and agents for sure. So just introducing that agentic experience inside of Dynamics. So there's this concept of a carousel, and a lot of, sorry, just to reiterate too, there's a number of features that are released in the lead experience. So if you've been on the platform for a long time, like I have worked with this Dynamics CRM since literally version 1 of Dynamics. So 22 years ago plus, when Microsoft released CRM, I've been working with the platform since then. So in that, couple of decades, the leads area of the product has really not matured very much. There's been a few bells and whistles, but it really hasn't matured much. I have to say this release actually brings leads into a really focused view and really powerful area just for those folks that really need to be able to do business development. It's a great area, but now with all of the new features coming into leads, I'm really happy to see that there's actually some more teeth in here. There's more to chew in terms of why would I even use leads in the first place? And I think this actually helps paint that story. So you can see here, again, not all parts of the leads or the CRM in general are applicable to different styles of business. So if you're in wealth management, if you're in healthcare, if you're in real estate, it's not a one size fits all solution. The release plan will talk about generic solutions and generic ways to do things. So you as a user of Dynamics might not have sales goals in your world, which is fine. But the release will show you if you use sales goals. You can see here, Mona has reached 68% of her goal because there is a mechanism in this product to allow you to identify what a goal is for a user. So visually, it's a nice kind of experience. You can see here, she's got sort of like her own personal experience of her targets and so on. But what also Copilot agents are going to do in here is tell you some summaries of things, which is really, really fascinating. So this is sort of applicable to everybody. And then you can see a couple of other suggested next best actions on the right side of my screen. So key activities that your users should be really focused on. So I think this is a neat kind of experience to have this carousel that then feeds over into your opportunity view as well. So you can imagine your continuity of your data starting in lead, moving to opportunity. So the idea of this Copilot carousel is pretty neat. I think it's a nice visual, and it's you can put the components that you like on there. Okay, so that would be number one in there. So this is another kind of Copilot experience is sort of like that lead research agent. So what Copilot is going to try and do is enrich your data. Again, I put a caveat on all of this. It might be overkill for your business. It might not be necessary, but it's just interesting to see where Microsoft is focusing their attention. It's certainly on helping you build business, helping you get insights into what's happening outside of the CRM, and it's bringing that CRM that data experience into the CRM, which I think this is really powerful. So you can see here there's what are called customer conversations. And so what's going to happen is the Copilot here will help you automatically capture basically the follow-ups and next best actions kind of concept. And I do see an overlap here with like the Teams recording features and things like that. So this is an interesting feature to be watching out for. Another Copilot flavor is the ability to create row summaries. So this is just an example of a record in a CRM. So think of this as like that parent of a contact in the kind of standard table structure is accounts. We call it in our world relationships. So I want to summarize all of these tabs and all this information, which really helps the user focus in on what is the most important information about the relationship, and it updates automatically. So I want to call it a couple of things. So your CRM might look different for sure, but what's really interesting is if you have things that are calculated fields, the Copilot summary is dynamic. It's going to continue to update. So in this case, we want to report when's a client's next birthday in the whole relationship or that sort of account. And again, this is because your world deals with people and you want to know certain information about them, like when's the next birthday, or if you deal with B2B, when's the next contract renewal. So if you have this data in there, you can create these Copilot row summaries that just allow you to generate these nice little summaries, and they're dynamically going to update. And it's based on the record that you're sitting in. So you can do these row summaries on leads, on opportunities, on contacts, you name it, like anything in there, it's a row summary feature. So I really like that. I've been messing around with this in the back end here. So it's pretty easy to set up and just a nice little experience. Again, agent created emails. So we all seen this many times, but I just wanted to put this in here. This is on the leads area specifically. So automatically Copilot will respond to emails, help you kind of draft things and so on. You get to, obviously you always want to look at these kinds of auto-created things from an agent, but that's the good news about this is you do get to review before you send, but there's a nice little email creation agent in here. So pretty nice. And this one I liked, pretty cool kind of feature, to propose meetings, to, again, we're focusing on the leads area here, but what this agent will do is actually look in your calendar, because everything's connected, as you know, in the Microsoft universe. It's one of the biggest, to me, reasons why you would be a Dynamics CRM user if you're already in the Microsoft universe. Like, everything is so co-connected. It's just fascinating the way that Microsoft is continually building in and reaching into their universe of ecosystem. But so this co-pilot is going to say, okay, hey, Jane, you look to be available on these days. I'll pop it into this proposed email. You can adjust it if you want, but it's actually saving me keystrokes and time to actually look at my calendar, pop this in, look over here. So it's just a really nice feature, that is going to help me kind of with my day. Next item I wanted to talk about was, again, if you use it, if you need it. So there's another agent to help you cross-sell, upsell. So a trend I'm hearing with a lot of clients is, there's a mothership firm and there's a division firm, and this division has their own CRM data. This division has their own CRM data, but there's an opportunity to cross-sell, upsell between these divisions. And so what this upsell agent is predominantly looking at, sort of like things like cases and calls and so on, but conceptually, there's a mechanism via Copilot to say, hey, you called about this, or your email about this, but there might be this other product or service that might be appropriate to try to fit into your conversation somehow. So it's really an upsell agent. So kind of, it has some merit, something I'm watching for the future for sure. There's some nice ways to actually go in and tailor what's called a sales qualification agent. So, I want to be able to streamline, how do I qualify, and what's the profile that I want to do. So you can see here, I just put some screenshots in here to kind of show you when you go into your app settings, you can come in here, talk about the kind of products that you want to pitch. I want to include some ideal customer profile as I'm kind of nurturing the data, cleaning up the data. And then I want to tailor, well, who am I pitching this to? So you can see here, I want to pitch it to certain industries like financial services, healthcare, government. I want to focus it on this opportunity, this like how lead gen kind of like outbound stuff, to firms that are 300 employees or above. I want to focus on certain titles. So it's going to reach out into the universe and try to help you kind of like hone your messaging based on your qualification agent. So pretty neat. Copilot in the Power Platform, of course, just helping you with expressions and so on, creating generative action. So some really neat stuff in here. One thing I really like is creating these visual process maps. Oops, one second. This I thought was just amazing. So Copilot to help me create a visualization of what I'm trying to do in my Power Automate. So I really like that part. I know Power Automate to a lot of you is not a new thing, but I like some of these little features that are coming in, and that visual process map is pretty strong feature. I love that one. Just a few, small things here and there with Copilot. What you can do in Copilot Studio is just, you can add some suggested prompts in here. You can enrich with third-party data. You can obviously pre-build there's some pre-built agents like help me navigate a website, or help me do some Q&A in here. So there's some pretty interesting Copilot Studio pre-built agents, and it's a good starting point if you ever wanted to build an agent. I was playing around with building an agent to help me serve up prompts for users of the CRM to ask questions about, how do I do something? And I want to pull in, a website of, here's some documents and so on, to train the Copilot And it's a really neat kind of experience to kind of be able to go in and build an agent to help you enable your end users just to get in the habit of asking questions in the product, right? So I want them to stay in the product. I want them to see and experience. So Copilot Studio has some pretty neat features in there. And then obviously you want to be able to see some diagnostics around how accurate your Copilot agents are and so on, and did the answers come in properly. So as you can imagine, best practices and anything AI is review, assess, rebuild, review, assess, rebuild, and fine tune. So Microsoft is giving us some nice ways to look at some diagnostics in here. There's always going to be a need for governance and so on in your AI functionality. So Microsoft has got some new standardized documentation to clarify security rules. There are some AI functions in here to improve your data quality, new tools to enable role delegation. So I know that conversation came up Gendo earlier. This might be something that makes sense for you to look at in your journey of how do I see into roles. Now this might help with some enablement. We do get a lot of clients asking us about least privileged access and how can these products support that, especially with now an AI can help me just ask questions that I might not know as a administrator, that I've opened a back door to something. So I think there's certainly some power in here. And then finally, so IP firewall extensions obviously in here, as well as the concept of column level security, guest access controls for environment management. So certainly the Wave release has some nice features in here, certainly coming to the forefront, and some very valuable updates in this area. Okay. So that's a wrap on some of the highlight features from Wave 1. Wave 1 rolled out. I know that some clients reported one issue with the recent wave was for some reason some system views weren't working anymore, but so far it's been a very quiet release. So things seem to be just very settled in the wave release process in general. So that any questions on the wave release? Any questions on preparation for data projects or data analysis projects that we can help with? And thank you everybody for the questions. It's been really great. Thank you everybody for kind of helping each other in here too. I really appreciate it. Nancy, any comments before we wrap up and talk about next sessions?
I'd like to just ask this group. I have a meeting with the lead of the Dynamics product group for sales in about an hour. Any messages I should be taking to him about what you like or don't like in the Copilot for Sales or the sales app? Anybody? I'll tell him, Tanya, that you found that the release plan or that the release has gone smoothly. He'll be happy to hear that, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think one thing that I was talking about, and I don't know if it affects directly the person you're talking to, but one thing I was mentioning to Vonda before is I was on a call with a couple of Microsoft Copilot architects, and I was asking about the standard Copilot experience inside of Dynamics, where there's the pre-built prompt library, but it's not a dynamic reference. So I was saying, like, even in my demo today, I was showing a screen that our company calls the account table relationships. We've changed the label of the table. The Copilot prompts they're hard-coded to reference the name of the schema name, right? So if you say, give me an update on the account, so that's a standard prompt, I get it. You can hijack it, but it's a lot of work for me to hijack it, right? I don't want to go in and have to give me a summary of the account. I want it to dynamically say, give me a summary of whatever is the name of the table that is the standard prompt, right? So Copilot's doing a great job of its job, but it's not built in a dynamic enough way to be able to take advantage of the standard prompts. So not exactly sales app.
that's more on the Copilot side, and it's
Yeah,
very
it is, but
interesting to me that the Copilot team is
yeah,
somewhat siloed from the
yes,
rest of the first party app team.
yeah,
I know they're working on resolving that. So
yeah.
yeah, I see Alejandra, you identify Copilot for sales and Copilot in sales confusing. I know I went through there's an autonomous agent as well. I can't remember. I think it's called the sales agent. And then there's the
Yeah.
sales something agent. One is for Copilot for sales and one is for Copilot in sales.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's an ongoing. Every time I present, I specialize in contact center these days. So I try to help people understand the difference between Copilot for service and Copilot in service, because they are very different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the naming conventions are tricky.
Yeah, and I mean, they in the customer service workspace, I don't know if any of you have realized that they renamed it to Copilot Service Workspace, which is causing some rippling effects for clients who don't want Copilot yet because they're not ready for it,
Yeah.
particularly in Europe, who have tight GDPR constraints. So the good news is that you can change it back, but out of the box, it comes with Copilot. We're going to see that more and more, and I encourage people to look at Project Sophia as a way of thinking about how the user interface, when you see such an Adela talk about the way we're doing things today. Even Charles Lamana is talking about how we're doing, it's going to be Copilot first and we're going to interact with agents.
Yeah.
I think Project Sophia is giving us a bit of a glimpse into what that's going to look like.
Yeah. And we did talk about that project and the whole concept of AI preparedness in our last session in April. So if you haven't had a chance to watch the recording, is it up yet? I can't remember, Vonda, from April.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay.
The March
Perfect.
one, you mean?
Maybe the March one. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
the March one.
Yeah,
Yeah, the March one.
that's definitely up.
Yeah. So we did talk about that. So that's a good reminder, Nancy, on Project Sophia to watch and monitor it and just kind of just monitor it for sure. It's the showcase.
There's
and it's certainly changed.
Research agent, I think, is when you look at the research agent, that's definitely Project Sophia.
That's Project Sophia. That's right. Yeah, exactly. So awesome. Okay.
Right. So back to you for what's next.
Sure. So just to wrap things up, again, thanks for spending your time with us. We do really appreciate it. We do have 2 more sessions before we do a summer break. So next month we're doing a fabric session. So we'll dovetail off of Nadia's session but this fabric approach or this topic is with a guest speaker, and his world is around F&O. I think conceptually fabric is a topic that's applicable to everybody in the Dynamics world, but the focus, the speaker for next month will be somebody from the F&O finance and operations app world. So there's a link there for the meetup. And then our final session will be June. We're going into the AI space and we're going into customer journeys, marketing space, and then talking about another embedded approach for AI and marketing and so on with a third-party provider named Click, formerly called Click Dimensions. There's the link there for that meetup. So again, even if you can't join us, it's definitely worth kind of taking a peek at the YouTube channels for that. Maybe, Vonda, did you post the YouTube channel in the chat?
I haven't, but I will. Let me just dig it out. It's obviously, there's the main one that's got every Dynamics user group in, but if you just want me to pull up the March one specifically, if that's
we'll put a link in there and then people can navigate back. That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I'll do that now. And I've also, if you just scroll up a little bit, I've put a feedback form in from today's session. I know, Tanya, you're always grateful for people's input and what people would like from these sessions. So that's there. And I'll just dig out the video.
Yep. And if you prefer to scan the QR code on the screen, that's the same link that Vonda's posted in the chat there. And we do really read the feedback. We do try to use your comments to inform our next topics as well. So, and also we love having you guys participate as presenters. So if you want to talk, we love having guest speakers. You don't need to hear our voices all the time. So, but thank you again, everybody, for joining us. And we will wrap unless there's some final questions. Thank you, Vonda. That's great. So Vonda posted the YouTube March video just as an example of how to get to our content on LinkedIn, or excuse me, on YouTube. So if there are no more questions, thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll give you some time back, and we'll see you in hopefully at the Dynamics User Group in Chicago, where Nancy's going to be on stage, remember, and we're very excited. I will be there. If we don't see you in Chicago, we look forward to hopefully seeing you back again May 22nd. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.
For joining.
Thank you.
Bye now.